I was doing some research and I found something that was very fascinating. It seems like pretty much. I think I found the answer to what I've been dealing with myself. I've been doing like a lot of shadow work and digging inside myself and trying to allow myself to just kind of get lost in the trauma and the pain. Because I noticed that what happens is I'll get so upset about something that has to do with that grief, that loss, that pain, that sorrow. And it's not so much trauma as it is grief. What I feel is the grief, the loss I experienced as a result of what happened, or how I was misunderstood and other things. Mine's pretty complex and compounded, but trauma. So what happens is I found this website. I was, researching on Google. I was trying to figure out how to obtain the theta state without actually going into some really deep meditative state and without actually going to sleep. With kind of just mind over matter, like trying to train your mind to go into the theta state. I'm a huge fan of the Vampire Temple, so they're all about mind and mind over matter and the power of the mind and such. And so like I've really always, deep down, I've tried to always, do things that way. And when I stumbled across the temple, it was like a godsend because it was exactly what I was looking for with the dragon, the inner dragon. Anyways, that's besides the point. The point I'm trying to make is that when I discovered this article, or it was a website, it was and it actually described like detail for detail what I've been dealing with, when it talks about how something will trigger you and you'll just kind of dissociate, and you just apparently dissociations, it's completely different for everybody. Like it's not all the same thing. Like I don't feel like I'm walking in a dream state. I don't feel like it's not real or whatever. I just detach from my emotions, and everything at this point becomes objective. Everything. And so I'm able to literally look inside myself and to see my past and to see my trauma as if I were an outsider looking in. And this is something I've been training myself to do. And this is one of the reasons why I'm mentioning this. I'm really big on dissociating and taking a step back is pretty much what it is. Taking a step back from your emotions and allowing your mind to do the work, and allowing yourself to reason through the trauma. Something that my therapist, when I was seeing one, he was teaching me, because I have complex PTSD and it's pretty bad in its expression. So he was teaching me something they teach military veterans, and it's called ABCs. And pretty much A is going to be the trigger. It's going to be what caused you to flip out. And the B part is going to be like what you felt, what you experienced. And the C, you're going to start reasoning through those experiences, and you're going to start, thinking through it. So with my, I accidentally dissociate so much that it's like I'm living in this space cadet state of mind sometimes. And it's just because of the severity of the trauma and the consistency, and then how my life is unfolded. Like right now I'm sleeping in my car because I can't overcome this trauma. And like everything, I lost my son because I can't overcome the trauma. And it wouldn't have happened if it weren't for the trauma. And so there's lots of reasons why I have such severe grief. But my purpose for this actual video is to be able to describe, I think, the way I'm noticing the way my trauma affects me. It's very similar to the stages of grief and the death and dying counseling, or I don't know, whatever that stuff is called. But so if you could take a type of trauma and traumatic experience that causes the severity of the expression of the cluster of symptoms that is PTSD, you can actually pretty much compare it to a type of prolonged grief. And so when you think about the stages of grief, you can actually apply that to that circumstance. And that'll help you, if anything, the person experiencing it, it'll help them be able to recognize what they're dealing with and to realize that it is normal and that that's okay, because that compounds your trauma in itself. When you sit there and kick yourself and judge yourself, oh, I shouldn't be this way. For people who've never had that issue, I've never been this way, or I shouldn't be this way, or people coming around and judging you because they don't understand, if they don't even care to try to understand. that's the type of thing that you need to realize. And the stages of grief and applying that to this type of experience and this type of reality you live in, it actually really, really could help, I think. And it could also help others, like with families or significant others, friends, whatever, anyone who wants to try to get involved and try to help this person to be a support system of some sort, to be somebody they can talk to, whatever. And specifically with counselors and group therapy and stuff like that. And I think that would be really, really beneficial to really zone in on the grief, the stages of grief, and how that can either compound and prolong your trauma and the cluster of symptoms that, that is sometimes unwittingly, but certainly unintentionally, like uncontrollably expressed, but also, I had a brain blank there for a minute. Also, it could bring you to a point where it can help you identify and help you reason through. Once you start to accept that you're going through these stages, it's kind of like the 12 steps, kind of, we admitted we were powerless over such and such, and our lives have become unmanageable, right? So, how people, they take that and they apply that to essentially anything they want to in life, even if it's the inability to successfully start your own business or, whatever. So I've seen it applied to all kinds of stuff. So if you take the stages of grief and you do the same thing, I think it would be very beneficial, because once we admit we're powerless and that because of that grief, our life truly has become unmanageable. Some people can keep a job, some people can run a business, some people can run a business, a household, a marriage, and every dadgum thing else, but they're still broken. And so that unmanageability comes when it expresses problems in that marriage that they are holding down, problems in the way that their children are experiencing things as a result, problems in potential productivity, whereas yes, they can manage a business and they can run it, but they might still be having issues. Like, if you really accept this, if you accept lesser than perfection and you say, okay, I'm going to keep striving, but I'm doing good, but I know there's some issues, but there's no but. That's when you have a problem. That's what I mean by when your life has become unmanageable. And so that is a real big point I want to emphasize as well. But so when you go and you have this experience, you go through the stages of grief when you're trying to overcome it, depending on how severe it is, I guess. I don't know. I haven't really experienced anybody's grief but mine. And so it's taking me into like prolonged grief because of all the circumstances that have surrounded the trauma and how that has compounded into my life. And it has destroyed essentially every aspect of my life. Every ability to have relationships, friendships, family's gone, everybody's gone, everything's gone. Time management out the window. The dissociation makes that near impossible. And I'm like almost constantly in and out of a dissociative state. So like time passes and I don't even know what the hell's going on. But so I need to work on those triggers. And part of that is accepting the stages of grief. Because I notice I flip back and forth from acceptance to anger and back and forth. And then I'm realizing that's what it is. And so it's a good sign that you're overcoming it. I've got like 50 seconds left before this recording cuts me off. But once you learn to accept and you start coming to terms with that, then you can dig deeper, and that can help you in the type of ABC type process that I was mentioning earlier. Maybe not per se, but you can actually kind of reason through it, and you can use those stages of grief to help reason through your trauma and reason through the compounding of the trauma that was caused by the trauma that manifests through lost relationships, lost jobs, lost this, lost that. I just wanted to share that.